I was at a shoot one time where we actually had neighbors attack the house that we were in. We had rented a house, and started. All right, so what happened was
we got to hear the whole thing.
We were shooting a scene. We were shooting a couple scenes over the course of a day, and one of the scenes was a VR scene. And in the VR scene, it was two girls playing tennis on this tennis court in the backyard of the house. And then we started hearing kids, and it turned out that there were like some, junior. No more alcohol for me. We heard kids, and then we saw that there were like these 13, 14-year-old kids that were at the house next door. Oh, yeah. And they started being 13, 14-year-old shitheads. So they would like, climbing up on top of stuff and like trying to talk to the girls. And we weren't shooting anything even nude out there. They were literally just pickup shots for the stuff that we were doing inside. But clearly they could tell what's going on. Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like when I was 13 or 14, you could have been shooting porn like in my basement and I wouldn't have known what the fuck was going on. These kids are like, I've seen her before.
They knew exactly who the stars were.
Yeah, they knew who they were. Yeah, and so
to get on her OnlyFans.
So we went back into the house. We were shooting our stuff, and then it turned nightfall. We were still there shooting, and all of a sudden we just started hearing a commotion. And it was like, I guess the kids went to their parents who were drunk because they were day drinking all day. So they were fully hammered at like 7 p.m. The kids like went to them and said the people next door asked us if we want to be in a movie.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, cops came, everything, and then like the other photographer who was with us that day, I was directing one of the scenes and doing photos, and he was handling photos and helping out with the other scene.
Yeah.
And his trunk was left open, and he had C-stands in his trunk. And they literally like took the C-stands out of the car and started throwing them at the front door of the house. Like they were being aggressively white trash. Like it was insane. And we were just like, I took all the talent. We had a bunch of talent in the house. I took them all. I locked them inside in like an interior room in the house. I'm like, nobody leave here.
Jeez,
yeah, I remember Charles Darrow was with us that day. And
Charles fucked it up?
No, Charles was just like, what's going on? I'm like, there's cops outside. The neighbors are saying that we were trying to get their kids to make a porno. And Charles was just like, and I count on Charles for his grappling skills and his jiu-jitsu prowess. He hightailed it the fuck out of there. He was like, all right, see you later. And then he was like, gone. And I was like, I can't believe you left us.
Well, I mean, did you check with any of your cast and crew if they had warrants? That's a very possibility.
Yeah. None of us had warrants, but the one guy on my crew who had experience with the penal system went out and negotiated with the police officers, and it was pretty awesome watching him work. This guy Freddie, he was talking to the cops, but at the same time telling the neighbors to go fuck themselves, which was pretty hilarious. And we're like watching from like either side of the front door. We're like, oh shit, what's going on? And then at one point, I walk away from the window, and one of the other people that was there is like, they put him in handcuffs. I'm like, oh shit. So we go back up to the window, and then like he gets taken out of the handcuffs, and he's fine. And he's just like, because he said, I'm like, what happened when they put the handcuffs on you, man? He's like, man, I know my rights. He's like, I told them you can't handcuff me. You don't even have anything to arrest me for. And like, he's like, they were just giving in to the pressure. I'm like, I love having felons as like people in my life. Sometimes it's just like, thank you for knowing your rights.
Like actually knowing.
I'd have been like
that all the time.
I'd have been like, don't take the handcuffs off. I just shit myself. That would have been me. Instead, he was like, I know my rights. You can't cuff me. You can't take me into custody.
I didn't do.
You don't even have anything you're taking me into custody for. And they're like, you know what? He's right. And then but they were like super aggressive. Like the neighbors were calling. Like our makeup artist went out to her car. It was like we just told her, we're like, look, we're not shooting anything else today.
Yeah.
So why don't you leave? She was going out to her car, and I walked her to her car with her makeup bag. I put her makeup stuff in the trunk, and they were calling her a whore because they just saw a woman walk out of the house, and they're like, I see that porn's being shot there, so every woman that comes out of this house we're just going to scream whore at. And I was like, oh, that's hilarious because you're not a blanket
approach.
Yeah, and
aren't we all whores for something?
We are. I'm 100%. I'm way more of a whore than she was, but it was hilarious how quickly that devolved, and you realize that like no matter how insular the process of shooting porn is, when you're like in a shoot house or you're in a studio, Like the second, it's so tenuous. At any moment, if somebody catches wind of what you're doing, if the wrong person finds out, it could literally turn into just your worst nightmare. And so now I'm so gun shy. I immediately am like, don't leave any stands in the car. I don't want them to throw shit at the house. Like, yeah, it was frightening. It was terrifying. And then the funny thing was we ended up shooting the next day at the same house. We just went in early because we didn't want to rebook the whole thing. And we went in and just finished it up really quick the next morning. Back to the same place. Scene of the crime, we went back because we're smart.